If you've got a voice, then pull up a seat. Real talk drops with every beat. No echo chamber, no disguise. Welcome to the Dead Mike Society.
This is John.
This is Dan.
Welcome to Dead Mike Society.
So what is going on?
So I just took the family, the sister-in-law and nieces and nephew to the airport. They were here for about a month. And I have to say, I really like being an uncle. I think I was reflecting on this. I had really good uncles growing up. And my experience with that is really positive, and I really enjoyed it. Do you want to let us know what your uncle status is?
I mean, I love being an uncle. I like all my nieces and nephews. I'm an uncle to 9. It's pretty amazing seeing them develop over all the years. I love each and every one of them with all my heart. I grew up with 2 uncles. I'm so close with one of my uncles. I mean, it's like an unbelievable bond. I couldn't imagine what I'd be doing without that uncle. I mean, he's given me so much guidance. My other uncle, he definitely is a big part of my life. He always tries to give me kind of that hard line advice on things. And, I just try to take the good with the bad with him.
Yeah. So, being an uncle, right? It's sort of like an interesting thing because it's almost like being a grandparent. It's like you can be fun, but then you give the children back to the parent. Is that kind of your read as well? I like to have fun, and there's not really that disciplinarian like crack the hammer down. That's my experience.
I agree. I mean, I don't look at being an uncle as being like a father figure. I mean, you're not their father. You are their uncle. You're kind of like a neutral adult, so that if there's an issue with, let's say, their parents or school or whatnot, they can come to you and you can kind of be that middle ground person that they can trust. And you're fun. So if they want to, get some coffee, or if they want to, go to their friend's house or get pizza or whatever, the uncle can kind of get away with they wanted pizza, so here's some pizza. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I mean, I couldn't see, again, me being without an uncle and, totally fun. We'd go motorcycle riding. We'd go, all different kinds of things as a young man you want to experience. You know what I mean? Explore, traveling, trips, learning about things, how to use your hands, how to build things, work on carburetors, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So we were talking about off camera beforehand. We were talking about politics, and we were talking about how politics can be a little divisive. And I'm wondering, what is our stance on talking about politics? Where do we come from as far as a show? YouTube is many people, right? Spotify, many people from many different countries. So, do we have a responsibility to appeal to everyone? Are we appealing to a certain group? Maybe we could kind of talk about this a little bit.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, from my perspective, we are kind of the middle ground, because you and I are not strong leaning left or right. We're going we may lean, I may lean more right, you may lean more left. But when it comes to news, we all have our different sources of where we get our news from. We all have our different friends and our different circles. And you hear everything. You hear everything from what's happening on the street level to what's happening in the propaganda level. And as a podcast, it's hard for us to decipher 100% what information is accurate across every demographic. So we have to take the information that we get from our sources and basically try to come in a non-biased way, even though sometimes we may say things that in the end it's maybe that was not 100% accurate. Maybe we did make a mistake on our verbiage or what we said. And as a show, we're sorry for that. We don't want to make mistakes on that. But again, we want to also talk about the issues without being scared of saying something wrong, because that's part of communication.
So what I'm hearing you say then is it's progress, not perfection. We're not pretending to be perfect. We're saying we're better today than we were when we started, and we'll be better in 6 episodes from now. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Exactly. We're always growing. We're always learning more. And in this world today, you are thrown out like so many sources, and you can't always do your due diligence of fact checked every single thing across the board. So sometimes you go like, wow, that happened. And then you express it on the show because it's still in your mind. You're like, wow, all these people felt that way. Oh my God. And then later you learn, oh, well, maybe that was a little bit more propaganda than actual like straight line, definitive truth. But again, historical truth and truth now, it's still a little bit blurry because the lines keep changing. You know what I mean? With
Yeah.
news, especially, and science too. I mean, it's not only news, it's also science. So yeah, we're basically trying to do better every single day, and we're trying to give our audience the best information that we have at the time. And we do like the comments and we do like the feedback. And if there is something that you find in the show that strikes you a certain way, then please go ahead, comment about it, and we'll do our best to respond and try to give you, if it's an apology, you get an apology. And if it's like, well, actually, we might have been right about that, then we'll explain why we were right about that. But again, we don't want to get into it with every single fan in every single comment because we really don't have time for that. But we're going to make like our effort to do the best we can.
Yes. And I will say that we do appreciate each and every viewer. We appreciate each and every comment. And like you said, we may not have time to actually respond to everyone, but we are interested in building a community, and that's what a community is. It's a two-way discussion, right?
Yeah. So don't take it personal. Just remember, a lot of this show is also entertainment, and sometimes in entertainment, you do kind of see something or say something that strikes people a certain way. And that's kind of what entertainment is, because we do get sensationalized news. I mean, we do see that. We do read those headlines, even though when Jon and I talk about it, we try to bring it from our perspective. Like, we're not coming to the table repeating the sensationalized news like paragraph by paragraph. We're going, okay, that was a crazy story. How are we going to interpret it, and how are we going to share it with the audience?
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. I wanted to touch on something we talked about last episode, and I said we would pick it back up. I want to talk about the married world versus single world. Now, I'm not asking for like specific stories or anything. I'm just asking about like my experience as a married person. I have not been in the single market for like over 2.5 decades. So I know that people use like apps to meet people. I think that's the number one way to meet someone is through apps. As a married person, I find that it's an interesting dynamic because like you are like working with this one individual and they do change. Like I think what they say is that women marry men expecting them to change and they don't, and men marry women expecting them not to change and they do. And I find that that's actually like true. That's rung true for me. So as a single person, let's dig a little bit more into kind of what your view of that life is and how to survive in that world.
Well, like for me, I don't want to necessarily say, oh, well, this is my life, I'm single or I'm not single. That doesn't matter for the show. What matters is that as a person who can relate to single people, I'll tell you that it changes as you get older. So I'm not a married person, but I do date. So when I was younger, it seemed like it was easier to make these grounded conversations with the opposite sex. As I got older, it's turned into more jaded conversations, and it feels like more water cooler talk and almost like an interview. Like, what can you do for our company? And that's kind of how the dating scene is, where I feel like when I try to have an authentic connection, people have seen so much in Hollywood and they've seen so much in their friends, and there's so much divorce that when women my age meet you for a date to kind of establish if there's any kind of connection past like just the physique. It turns into this interview process of like, well, I've already been through so much and I have all this baggage. Are you really ready to step up and change my life? It's almost like they're winning a lottery. And I know it's not for every woman, it's not across the board with every demographic, but I'm saying in my experience in LA, it seems like almost like they're trying to find this prize. And if not, it's like, let me try to get the most extravagant dinner possible. Because the time of like, hey, let's meet for a coffee is almost off the shelf for modern dating in your midlife. Women don't want to meet you for a coffee, really. They want to see what you're about. And if you're going to, show them that you're a provider and that you're not full of BS. And that to me is strange. It's like a strange thing because on a first date, why is there so much worrying about the future? Because right now we're here, we're now. Does it really matter if we're at a nice restaurant or if we're at Starbucks? I mean, does it really matter where we are if we're just trying to break the ice and meet each other? So that would be my perspective on dating. And again, like you said, with apps and whatnot, it's probably very different. I used a couple apps in the past, but I'm not really a big app person. I usually try to, say hello if there was like a connection in the past at like the grocery store or something like that, or it'd be like a friend through a friend trying to like set me up. I wasn't like on JDate and all these different things trying to make like all these connections.
So, what I heard you say about the Hollywood feature is that like maybe people are kind of taking in information from Hollywood, from TikTok, from social media. Do you think that is a positive thing that we have like such a global community now where people are sort of being told, hey, this is what you should do, and there's not really like individual okay, let me change it, because are there individual perspectives? Because there's like millions of people with channels, as opposed to like a few networks that used to do things, or a few studios who used to do movies. And now we have like all these influencers, but they're all kind of saying the same thing. So like my answer is, I think that it's actually good. I think we're going to go through a valley first in terms of, figuring out how to live with this global mindset. But I think overall, I have like more of an optimistic view. I think it'll be positive in the long run. So like, what do you think?
Well, I can see, millions of people who are experiencing different things in society with the influencers and with the dating scene are going to have different opinions, but it's also kind of what's trending. I mean, I think that women are on an upswing with the power. They're running companies, they're more powerful than ever, they're more wealthier than ever. And I think what comes with wealth and power is kind of this attitude of like, I don't really need anybody. Like, what are you going to do for me?
Do you think that men were filling that role before and they had that attitude, or are you, well, okay. First of all, let me just say, I'm not trying to trap you, right? Like, I'm not trying to catch you as like a sexist or something. I'm just trying to understand. So, like, my answer is that I think that I like my wife, for example, like happy wife, happy life. That's my philosophy. And my wife likes to be the boss. So instead of fighting, which I tried to do like for a long time, I tried to fight against the system, as opposed to like being more in harmony with it. I found that. So I do agree with you in my experience that I think that women are on the upswing. But were men like doing that with power when they were in charge, or not?
Well, when it was more traditional, it was like men had more careers and had more of the provider situationship. So they would meet a girl and they would be more of the provider, and the woman would be more of taking care of the home, which was a very important job, and taking care of the family and giving that support that makes synergy. Because it's like when a man and a woman can come together and support each other, it becomes greater than one.
Hmm. Now, was that just like the sell, or was that reality? Like why were there so many divorces if everyone was so happy with that traditional role? Like,
I think what happened, the way I'm looking at it is, you know, property values went up. And I think that women who were invested in marriages for, especially in California, for over the 10 years, were like, what am I staying in this for? It's like, I can leave. We can sell the house. I'll get half the value of it. It's life-changing money. I've never really had life-changing money, right? And I'll create a new life. I can meet a new guy. I can get alimony. I can get child support. So I think women started whispering to each other and going like, you can take this guy to the cleaners. Like, he doesn't treat you right. We all make mistakes. Men say offbeat things. They say sexist things. So I think women at some point just said, look, we don't really need him.
so, okay. We're two guys, right? So like the question I'm about to ask you is like totally hypothetical because we can't understand the mind of a woman, I don't think. Like I have daughters, I have a wife, but like I don't really understand like how women as a monolith. Like I don't think that all women think exactly the same way. There's a spectrum, people think differently, but do you think that women look at money the same way that men look at money?
I think women look at money like security. They go like, why do I have to ask for something? It should just be there. You know, women have a different perspective. I mean, there's like, I don't know. I'm not an expert on anything, but I know there's woman math for sure. I know that does exist.
Yes.
Where you go and buy something and then you return it and you get something else for that value. And it's like, you're even. It's like nothing happened. So that return money, that doesn't exist. So let's say it's $500. For a guy, you'd return that and get $500 back and be like, okay, maybe I'll buy something else. But if I buy something for like $250, I got $250 back. But I feel like in women math, it's like, why would I give $250 back? I'll just spend the whole $500 again, and then I'm solid.
Do you think? Okay, so all right. I personally, and this is gonna put me like in a unpopular opinion with probably most of the people watching this show and listening to the show. All right. Like I think that money, the idea of money is sort of contrary to living a happy life. Like I see that as you increase with money, in my opinion, all right, this is just my opinion. As you increase with money, it's like what Biggie said, more money, more problems. There's this like idea of like, well, it's never enough because there is no limit to it. Like Elon Musk is still trying to make more money. It's not like he's going, well, I have $1 trillion and I'm just going to call it a day. It's like there's never enough. It's like more is always there. I'm not saying Elon Musk is a bad person. I'm not saying anybody who has money is a bad person. And I'm definitely not saying that living a poor life is somehow superior or like virtuous in some way. But I just wonder, like, is this like American pursuit of money for its own sake, like beyond the basic necessities? Is that like making people more jaded? Kind of like what you were saying earlier, that what you seem to be observing in the woman population that you're experiencing.
Well, I would say that, money, having more money, like you're calling it problems, like Biggie said, right? But it's also challenges. And I think people who have more money have more challenges because they have to use skills that people who don't have money have to use, like money management, for example. So like if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you don't really have to worry about money management as much because you're like, all right, well, I'll pay that when I get paid. But when you have a lot of money,
Yeah.
you have to learn how to manage the money so that you have money in the future. And that might be through investments, whatever it is. We don't have to go through all the different things, but money equates to that security in the future. And I think what happens is people want to be secure so that they're not living paycheck to paycheck. So that if there is an emergency or, God forbid, people got sick, it wouldn't be like you're calling your grandma or you're calling someone up like, hey, please help me. I live check to check. What am I going to do?
Now, if we didn't have a money system, but we had a different system, I'm not a communist. I'm not a socialist. I'm not an anarchist. Like, I'm not none of those things. Like, I definitely think America is great, and I think capitalism is great. But if we had a different system that didn't, promote this idea that you had to even have a paycheck, and instead people traded goods and services in a different way. I don't know what that way is. I don't have another system. I'm just saying that, like, is that the best that we can do as a country? I mean, obviously America is like, okay, I'm also going to sound very elitist. I think we're one of the greatest countries in the world. Okay. There are other countries that do things differently. I'm not saying that we're better than everyone in every single like metric, but I just wonder, is there another way to do it? Like, is there another way where we could like have virtue and, qualities that are like good and wholesome? Because I find that like money sometimes when the two are up against each other, virtue versus money, most people will choose money. They'll go, you know what? If I can get away with it, I'll get away with it. Like, I was watching this movie last night, Finest Kind. And in this like really wholesome fisherman, he ends up getting into like drugs because he needs $100,000 to bail out his boat. And it's a movie, it's not real, but like I think the reason why people relate with the movie is because stuff like that does happen, where you go, look, I'm going to break the law because I need the money. And it doesn't matter that it's not the right thing to do. And the whole movie, they're like, yeah, we're crossing a line and we shouldn't do this, but like we got to do it. And, it's just, is there another way to do this?
Well,
or is this the best?
I mean, it's the best for now because, like we said earlier, we have so many people and we have so many poor people and we have so many homeless people that how could it ever be fair unless we just all started over? But again, is that really fair? Because there's this generational wealth that's taking place in front of our own eyes. Is that the reason there's ultra rich is because people sacrificed generations before them and they built up these empires. So it's hard to just go like, all right, everybody, we're going to get rid of money. Like, we're going to start over. We got a whole new thing. Everyone's equal. Everyone starts with $100, but it's not dollars, 100, whatever you want to call it, 100 trading commodities. And from now on, it's like we're playing Magic. We're trading, like you have silk, or we're doing Catan, we're trading wool.
Right.
But the people who have built up all this wealth, like Elon Musk, they're not going to be like, all right. They're going to be like, whoa, like, I have all this money. This money is, this is what our legacy, our companies. So what I'm saying is I don't see how you would start it unless we would have another piece of land that wouldn't be owned by any country. And that would be this new world where people could go, and it's like not a society built on money. It's a trading society. But again, I think there would be people who wouldn't fit in. They would just be lazy. I mean, why would you want to, for example, wash the dishes if someone else is washing them? Why would you want to like help in the field when someone else, I mean, people would be like, oh, why would I go help out in the field to grow food? It's like, oh, my foot kind of hurts. Oh, I can't be in the sun. You know what? My lips chap. Like, I'm blind. Like, what I mean is, there's going to be all these people who are going to have all these different ailments.
Yeah.
You know.
So, I think what you're saying, right, is that the system that we have is the best system in place to produce the most productivity out of people. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the where it's at now, it does create class. I mean, that is kind of the issue. Is you do have this middle poor class now. Instead of just a middle and an upper middle, you do have a middle poor. So a new class has emerged, and it's really hard to get out of that. I mean, even with education, even with like a bachelor degree, it's now hard for that lower middle class to even rise up. And it used to be the California dream was that you could become like a homeowner and you could get out of middle and become upper middle or even rich.
Yeah.
So I think we do need to adjust the system to allow people to, again, obtain upper middle. And I think in our system now, we've lost that because we've created such a separation of wealth that people can't get there.
So I read a book called The Inner Ape. And in it, it talks about how we share sort of like vestiges from our ape ancestry. So like that's controversial, right? Like some people don't believe that we evolved from like a common ancestor with primates. But let's assume that we did with the evidence that's presented. They talked about the fact that even in animal societies, there's like this status, there's this class system among primates. And certain primates will have like all the food and some of the food and then no food, you know, and they sort of like do this social like experiment. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I wanted to say was that the cell, right, like in a cell of any organism, ATP is the currency of the cell. So in other words, all your cells use like a quote unquote money system. They barter this chemical called ATP, and that provides the energy for the cell. So I do see that like nature, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, does have a similar system with that.
That's interesting. And you were talking about, I know the common ancestor, but it was weird. I was talking to your son the other day, and he had told me that the primates are now creating fire and making tools. And I'm not trying to take a subject of what you were saying about how we use the same system as the universe. That's kind of like almost like a monetary system. But I just thought it was interesting that as we're talking about evolution, that you do have these primates who are on their own learning to create fire and tools. And I was like, wow, that's pretty impressive that that they're doing that.
Yeah.
Now going back to what you're saying with ATP, so you're saying that the cell uses chemical resources to create more cells.
Right. And it manages this money, kind of like what you were saying about being a money manager. So the cell manages and like increases the production, decreases the production, like certain things augment the production, and it trades this with different organelles inside the cell. And this is how the cell basically operates. It operates on like a currency system because it's a chemical. It's not like the energy in your cell is not like lightning. You know, I mean, we do have electrical forces inside of us, like in our nervous system, but like the cell itself uses like chemistry, like actual like made of atoms kind of currency.
Because the cell is dying. and then it's replenishing. Like our cells die off and new cells are created.
Right.
So it needs an energy source to make that happen. I mean, other than
Yes.
transferring, the DNA and the tRNA and all that stuff, there's a whole process where the cells split and turn into more cells. But you're saying inside the cell, it has an energy source, and then it's able to use that to power other cells. Is that what we're saying?
That's what we're saying.
So in our society, it's similar. I mean, we're using money.
We're using money.
To
We
power
have class.
things.
So I think if in and that's what I was saying. Like I was just wondering if there is a better system. Like I don't know. Again, I don't know what that system is. I'm not complaining about the system. I'm just noticing that, like for me, I notice a lot more obsession about power, status, wealth among young people than I noticed when I was at that age. Like when I was like because we didn't have social media, because we didn't have the internet. Like it wasn't being broadcast to you 24/7. The news channels, TV channels, movies, like they did not like obsess about this. Now the 80s was a pretty like I guess prosperous time in terms of money, but I don't recall it being just broadcast to me like constantly, like, look how much money I have, look how much money you can have, like, let's do it. Like they had like maybe infomercials that would like teach you like, oh, you want to be rich, like just take this course or whatever, or sue this person. Like but it was so infrequent. That was my experience. But now it just seems to be like like you said, trends, right? You were talking about trends. Like the trend seems to be that like more money is better, and I don't think that there's as much emphasis on being a good person. And I know you can't pay your bills being good, right? Like that doesn't like actually get you fed, get your health care, like you were saying. But I think that like if we could have some kind of balance, I don't know, like is that like at the parent level and the uncle level, kind of like what we were talking about earlier? Like who's in charge now of making sure that people are good people in addition to being successful?
Well, I'd say right before I answer that, I just want to say another thing about what we're talking about with currency. There was a big push to get away from the federal government and their systems across the world, and that was cryptocurrency. So I know that the inventor of cryptocurrency, I believe it's Satoshi, developed it because they wanted to be able to trade money for goods or whatnot and not have this federal kind of like tax on it where it's like, hey, if you need, $99, you have $99, not you have to pay a tax on it. So I think that the crypto arena may be at the forefront of revolutionizing the way that we do business, because you don't need a federal trade commission to monitor it. I mean, it's all based on a computer system, and you buy what's called coins or tokens. And as the software builds more through mining, more become available. And in some platforms, they're not unlimited. So there's a maximum amount of currency that is available for that society.
So, okay. So what you're saying basically is that like free trade, like you're talking about like the idea behind capitalism, which is like the free market system, like a completely free system, independent of like oversight. But isn't that why we created oversight? Because that system kind of leads to a lot of misuse and abuse.
Well,
Like will crypto go there eventually?
Well, the thing with crypto is that every transaction is traceable down to, 0.0000001 of a transaction of a coin. So really, it's easier to trace than a dollar bill, and because we have so much counterfeit money in this country, and I'm not saying that it's all Americans making the counterfeit money. It very well could be other countries that make the counterfeit money and send it into the United States. So with crypto money, there's a trace to every transaction that goes to a wallet. So if you did a forensic search of every transaction that a person made, it would lead you to every wallet that they've ever bought something from. So I feel like that is easier to investigate when there are crimes that have to do with money, with embezzlement and stealing of funds. And it would take away also like the bank heist, the strongman robberies would be less. Like there'd be less of that walking into a 7-Eleven like, hey, give me all your money, I'm going to shoot you, if it was a crypto world per se. But there would be people who would be trying to extort wallets from people. But again, all those transactions would be traceable. I don't think there's a system in place to refund money, and that's where the oversight could come in. But I think we're on a path to get rid of currency, to get rid of the dollar, to get rid of the yen, to get rid of the shekel, and to make a digital currency that is easily traceable. And sure, the government will add maybe taxes to that and whatnot. I know on your tax return now, they do ask if you've made any money on cryptocurrency. I feel like it's similar to capital gains. I may be wrong. I'm not sure if you sit on it for X amount of time, you don't have to pay taxes, or if you just have to pay taxes on every penny. Do you know?
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, but I wanted to circle back real quick to something you said, which was that you didn't want to change our subject. I want to just talk a little bit about my view of the show. And I think that like this show is a discussion. It's because there are some shows that are here and there's like one person and it's highly edited and they're talking to you and they're presenting you with like just a bunch of facts and they're blitzing you. Like I think that this show is more organic and more living. And so you may wonder like why are they pivoting? Like why are they talking about a million subjects? Like but that's kind of how a real conversation is. Like we ask questions, we clarify, we discuss things. We may have an idea or two to start the show, but like really this show is like the relationship between Danny and I. And so like if you're interested in that, I recommend, getting into relationships in your own life, because I think loneliness is like very prevalent among a lot of young people and a lot of older people. So do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I do. I think that making solid connections with other living creatures is important, and face-to-face conversations are very important also, because when you're just texting someone, you lose a lot of the chemistry. You lose a lot of the kind of like the detail, how it's said, what's behind it. Is it sarcastic? Is it a joke? Is it serious? And when we read text messages, we read it with our reading voice. So a lot of times people communicate only with text. And I've noticed that, I'd say probably over the last 5 to 10 years, that when you call someone, it's more awkward, right? You call them, hey, how are you doing? And it's like, you know what? Can you text me? But you don't really get to understand those little nuances between the conversation. So I think for the people who are watching our show, if you take a part of your day and you try to have an organic conversation and you're not using like Chat GPT, you're not worrying about how you're going to come off, just being yourself, I think that's going to pay dividends to you in your life and in society as a whole. Because the more that we hide behind our cameras and hide behind our phones and rely on AI and all this false pretenses, like pretending to be like the person who can write the perfect email every time. And I know it feels good to write that perfect email and to have the perfect punctuation or the perfect topic sentence and all that stuff. It looks great. It's great for business, but it's not really who you are. And I think we're losing that in society, that like be yourself and try to raise the bar. I mean, I feel like the bar has fallen so low. I was listening to a conversation last night between two of my nephews. And one of my nephews was saying like, chat, bot, because it was like my other nephew couldn't even formulate like a concept on how to approach an issue in his life without giving too much detail. It's like he's in a position as a young man who's about to go through rush, right? He's about to go to college. He's been to college before, but he's going to be going to college finally in a big university, and there's a lot going on. And he got into an issue. So he's trying to deal with the issue. So the way he's going about it is he's relying on others to tell him how to solve the issue, or he's relying on a chatbot. And he's not organically going like, okay, what are my options if I have to deal with this? So like if someone's approaching me and going like, you did me wrong and now you owe me something, how do I deal with that? So it was just an interesting conversation, and I was overhearing it. And again, it's not my business, but I was thinking in my mind, wow, if I was 20 something years old and heard and felt like that situation, I would try to figure out what my options are in this world, like legally my options and whatnot, and not be reliant on, just getting misinformation or information from those only around me other than like maybe an adult. I don't know. How would you approach?
So it's kind of a tricky subject. So I'm going to give an analogy, right? So like, let's say you drive a car. You're not using your legs. It makes your legs weaker, right? Like eventually, I think people may walk while they're in elementary school, but they may, like we talked about flying cars, right? So in the same way, using AI is like a car for your brain, but it limits your ability to think critically, to, muster like internal intuition. But I don't want to walk to my job.
Right.
Like I do want to drive. So like there has to be like a balance point. I'm not sure where AI is going, and we're definitely going to be talking more about AI because it's so prevalent and it's such an interesting like development. I mean, I just had no idea that they could do this kind of stuff.
Right. But if you grew up with only AI, and I'm saying you never had to make a rational thought. For example, you just had your tablet, and you could look at your tablet and your tablet would tell you the answer. So someone would ask you a question like, is this a square or is this a square, right? And you would look at your tablet and take a picture of their hand, and it would tell you, oh, the first one was a square. You see what I mean? You never have to develop that like knowing verbatim. You may have an idea because you can memorize. You go like, well, I've asked my tablet, 100 questions. It's given me 100 answers, and I've reread those answers. So I'm pretty confident when I walk into the next, nursery school, I can answer those questions. But you don't know. And when I say no, I mean like you don't know inside of your heart and inside of your mind that like this is real, this is a circle, this is a square. And I feel like that's kind of where we're going, even though I know in public school they're going to teach you a circle and a square and whatnot. I'm just giving an analogy. I'm going like the more that we're reliant on a computer to not engage you, like where you're not engaging your professor, you're not engaging your other students, you're just on your desk with your tablet doing your assignments. I'll say like in school right now, a lot of the assignments are geared towards your tablet because the teachers know the kids love to play games on the tablet. So a lot of the schoolwork is in a game format. So it'll teach you questions, but it'll have like cartoons. And I'm talking about elementary school. So you're breaking into life. This is your first years, your social years. This is where you're developing all those skills. You're learning how to make friends. You're learning about yourself. and you're finally getting out of just the house. Well, the first thing we're handing you is a tablet. And we're going, okay, this assignment's fun. It's going to give you a little cartoon character, and you're going to go through it. And you're going to read, the parts, and you're going to answer these questions at the end of the story. I don't know if that is actually better for the child long term than just handing them the hardback book and going like, all right, hold that, feel it, read it. Maybe you'll get a paper cut. Maybe your eyes will get tired of trying to read it. Maybe the book will fall on the floor 25 times. But what I'm saying is that experience is actually going to develop other skills. It's going to develop your hand-eye coordination. It's going to develop a frustration element. A lot of times when you get a new book, it's kind of hard to open it and get the pages. The pages kind of roll into each other. So what I mean is having that frustration at a young age, I think is good. I think you need to have that and then learn to overcome it. You go like, wait, I can hold the book with my knee. I can bend the book. And then you start to develop these other skills of like free thinking. Like, how can I do something now that's going to make this more enjoyable for me? And I know the tablets are very easy to use and enjoyable, but I am noticing also a lot more blinking, with children. I'm noticing, like, I have a nephew who loves video games, and I'm not sure if it's a tick or if it's just his eyes are dry, but I do notice this like extra blinking. I know I've talked about it when I was teaching chess a couple episodes ago, but have you noticed this with like any of your nephews and nieces or with your children or out in the field? I mean, have you noticed this new element of blinking that I think is geared towards eye strain from these tablets?
Well, I'm noticing that I'm blinking as you're saying this. I'm going like, wow, my eyes feel a little dry. Maybe I should blink. Maybe I should not blink. So no, but to answer your question, I have not. That's not my experience. But I'm trying to think. I don't think that I'm aware of anyone, but I haven't taught a class of children. So like I've been with the same nephew that you're talking about, and I haven't noticed it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm surprised. I'm a little surprised that you didn't notice more blinking from him.
But that doesn't say anything because like I don't tend to notice. Okay, we talked about this when we talked about the blinking on that episode that we did. So, when someone is blinking, like the question was, is it appropriate to notice something like that? Is it appropriate to point out something like that, right? Like, oh, you're blinking a lot. Are you okay? And so I deal with probably like 200 people a day, like new people from other countries, men, women, gay, lesbian, like all types, right? Like there's just all races. And so like, I don't want to say like everyone's the same, but like at a certain point, I start to just notice people being people as opposed to like the individual aspects of them. So that's just my personal experience in the job that I do. I don't really like dig in really deeply into people's face just because of like how many people I come across.
And you didn't watch like a movie with him or play some games with him? Or
We did play a game. We played Roblox, no plug, but it's actually, I have to say, like, Roblox is a really great system. Like, I think it's very wholesome. It's unfortunate that there are, like, hackers and, men or women who are, like, adults, and they try to, like, meet kids, like, in the real world. So, like, it's kind of like a weird, like a sheep pen in a way. Like you have to protect yourself from the foxes. So if you're a parent and your child plays Roblox, like just be aware that does exist. But anyways, we were playing a game and he was introducing me to like how it worked and the whole thing. And I play with my daughter. And yes, but no, I did not notice what you're talking about.
Okay. Well, good. Well, maybe maybe what I noticed was just a normal dry eye situation.
Yeah, it could be.
I just, you just don't know. And my concern was that when he was here, he was on his video game system pretty much from when he woke up to goes to bed. And so my correlation was that maybe he's getting eye strain from playing it for so many hours. Because I know when I was younger, I loved video games. I still like video games. But when I say I loved video games, I could sit with my Nintendo or my PlayStation and just turn off the lights and just play all day. And I know at a certain point, my eyes would hurt. Like I would finish and I would be like, oh man, like I don't know why it's hard to see. And I didn't put that into perspective as a kid. But I'm thinking now that there's more flash, like now the games are more intricate. They're more, and I'm not saying Roblox is per se, but there are games that are more like bright lights flashing at you.
Yeah, sometimes they'll have warnings, like warning, flashing light.
Right. And so I'm wondering if there's something that's happening. Also, I did sell electronics, and I know that one company had brought in one of the first HD TVs and had told us in the training to not stare directly. No, it wasn't. I forgot exactly how it was said, but that, you're going to watch TV, you're going to stare at it, you're going to watch it. But that it burns your retina at like 1,000 times the rate that a regular TV would have. This is like when HD first came out. It was something like that in the training. I'm paraphrasing it. Maybe it's not exactly 1,000 times, but the whole thing was it burns your retina faster. So now all of our screens are HD whatever, HDV, HDC, whatever it is, plus 4K and 5K. So my question for the audience is, do we know if that burns your retina faster? And if there's a correlation, I don't know if someone's an ophthalmologist, would there be a correlation between the burning of your retina at a young age and later on developing eye issues? Because that's my concern for like my nephew and other people and children that I see with this blinking is I go, could it be a situation where down the road we're going to need to have eye surgeries to fix the eyes because this is the eye showing damage, but early in life? So, I mean, if you damage your eyes before puberty, what's going to happen when you start to develop? Our eyes are developing, I know, until we're 50. But if you hurt it when you're 11 years old, what's going to happen when you get to 50?
Yeah.
I guess we can leave it on that.
Well, this is John.
This is Dan.
And this has been Dead Mike Society.
If you've got a voice, then pull up a seat. Real talk drops with every beat. No echo chamber, no disguise. Welcome to the Dead Mike Society.